The 2018 Indonesian horror film May the Devil Take You is here to send shivers down your spine. With vengeful spirits lurking everywhere and family members at risk of becoming puppets at any moment, this intense thriller will make you experience true despair like never before. Are you brave enough to challenge the darkest fears within? Grab your friends and watch it now. The story begins when Alfie receives a call from the hospital on her way home. Her estranged father, who abandoned his wife and daughter years ago, is about to pass away. As his daughter, Alfie prepares to visit him one last time, but to her surprise, Laxmi, her father's new wife, and her 3 children are also there. When Alfie was very young, her father, Lesmana, mysteriously became rich overnight, but soon after, her mother passed away, and her father married a new stepmother. For reasons unknown, he then faced bankruptcy, fell ill, and ended up bedridden in the hospital for many years. In the past, Alfie would have seen this as his punishment, but looking at her father's battered body in the hospital bed, she couldn't help but feel pity. At that moment, the lights in the hospital room suddenly went out. Alfie saw a female ghost slowly emerging from behind the screen. This horrifying sight made Alfie collapse onto the bed in fear. As the ghost drew closer, Alfie desperately tried to escape, but her father held her hand tightly. Suddenly, the ghost disappeared, and her father's grip tightened. Alfie looks down at her hand. The next second, a ghostly face lunged at her. After she regained her composure, Alfie realized that everything that had just happened was an illusion. As she sat down, still shaken, her father suddenly woke up and lunged at her. Hearing the commotion, the others rushed into the room and struggled to pull the frenzied Lesmana off of her. Seeing her father like this, it seemed he had only a few days left, so Alfie decided to return to the old house before selling it. But her stepmother, Laxmi, and her 3 children had the same idea, to search for inheritance. Little did they know, this long-forgotten house harbored a terrible secret. When Alfie pushed open her father's study door, she found it filled with dark ritual tools. Recalling the strange paranormal events she had encountered earlier, Alfie immediately realized something was wrong. The house might be hiding some kind of evil force. She rushed downstairs to tell Laxmi and the others, but they had already unwittingly broken the seal on the basement. After Laxmi pried open the lock, a faint ghostly figure slipped out, eventually making its way to Lesmana in the hospital. In the middle of his sleep, Lesmana suddenly felt something foreign in his throat. In a panic, he reached up to grab it, only to pull out a clump of black hair. Then, the hair wrapped tightly around his neck, and in an instant, it took his life. Meanwhile, on the other side of the house, Laxmi and the others, thinking Alfie was trying to claim the inheritance, began to argue with her. Just then, something terrifying happened. A ghostly hand shot up from the basement and grabbed Laxmi's ankle. By the time she realized what was happening, it was already too late. The ghostly hand dragged Laxmi into the basement, and soon, her screams echoed from below. Maya, desperate to save her mother, grabbed a flashlight and rushed to check it out. But just as she got closer, Laxmi suddenly sprang out from the basement, tackling her to the ground in an instant, and sinking her teeth deep into her wrist. Reuben, witnessing this, grabbed a nearby hammer and swung it at Laxmi's head. However, even after being struck, Laxmi did not die. She immediately crawled up to the ceiling, screaming down at the unsuspecting children below. Then, Laxmi crashed through the window and escaped. Although the crisis seems temporarily averted, the trouble is that Maya's hand has been bitten by the demon. Meanwhile, it's still pouring rain outside, and the only means of transport has been destroyed. In order not to delay Maya's treatment, they decide that Alfie will take Maya to the neighboring village for bandages, while Reuben stays behind to look after his little sister Nara. Before leaving, Alfie hands her phone to Reuben. Inside the house, Reuben calls his girlfriend Lily and asks her to come pick him up. On the other side, as Alfie and Maya are walking, they spot Laxmi, now a demon, crouching not far away. Luckily, they manage to hide in some nearby bushes, avoiding detection by Laxmi, but Alfie knows they can't stay trapped forever. Alfie gathers her courage and prepares to face the demon head-on. However, as she takes out the hammer, her diary falls out. Maya flips open the diary and is shocked to find it filled with curses and hatred directed at their family. This makes Maya suspicious and she begins to believe that everything is part of Alfie's scheme. Without a word, she runs off. Helpless, Alfie returns to the villa alone, but this decision nearly leads to disaster. As Maya runs through the rainy night, she soon encounters the demon. When the demon suddenly attacks, Maya grabs a flashlight and starts swinging it wildly. hitting the demon until it falls completely still. Only then does she stop. Although her mother had already been possessed by the evil spirit, Maya could never accept the fact that she had killed her mother with her own hands. As Maya breaks down emotionally, the demon seizes its opportunity. At the same time, Nara, fast asleep, hears her mother's voice coming from the wardrobe. Startled by the demon's growl, Nara opens the wardrobe to check, and when she finds nothing, she tries to go back to sleep. But suddenly, the ground begins to shake violently, like an earthquake. Fortunately, Alfie and Ruben arrive just in time to rescue Nara from the demon's grasp. Seeing the demon's hateful face and the 3 deep scratch marks left behind, Alfie's childhood memories are triggered. Clearly, this demon is not only linked to her father but also to her mother's death. To uncover the truth, Alfie and Ruben begin investigating the secret in her father's study. In her father's diary, Alfie finally uncovers the truth. Years ago, Les Mana, desperate to make money, suffered repeated losses and eventually turned to dark methods. He hired the most powerful priestess in the area to perform a ritual and change his fate. In exchange for power, priestesses typically offer their own bodies, and making a deal with a demon often comes at a great cost. Les Mana, eager for wealth, made a shocking choice to sacrifice his wife's life. He handed his wife's hair to the priestess, watching as she swallowed the lock hole. The next moment, bills fluttered down, falling like snowflakes. Les Mana's wish came true, and he became the richest man in Southeast Asia, while his wife died soon after. But now that the sacrifice had been made, why did Les Mana lose everything a few years later? What's even more puzzling is why he created charms and sealed the basement. Before Alfie could figure out what was happening, she suddenly felt dizzy and collapsed. The next morning, Maya returns to the villa alone, only to encounter a demon with goat horns inside the house. Under the demon's control, Maya unwittingly walks into the basement. Inside the ritual circle, 5 dolls are arranged, each representing Lakshmi's family and Alfie. By manipulating a doll, the corresponding person will react in the same way. When Maya picks up a doll, she hears the demon's voice.
Maya, kamu mau jadi pengikutku, menjadi anak dombaku.
Unaware of the danger, Maya follows the demon's orders, doing exactly as instructed. Little does she know, from this moment on, she becomes the demon's puppet. After Alfie regains consciousness, she hears the familiar sound of a piano. Drawn by the music, she approaches the piano and sees her long-deceased mother. Overcome with joy, Alfie leans on her shoulder, but her mother speaks to her with a trembling voice. After speaking, her mother turns her head, and her expression is oddly sinister. It's then that Alfie realizes the woman before her is not her mother. Laughing maniacally, the woman begins to tear her own face apart right in front of Alfie. Alfie is nearly scared to death, but in the blink of an eye, her mother's face morphs into Maya's. Maya, not knowing when she returned, deliberately wears one of Alfie's mother's dresses from when she was alive. Alfie feels it's time to leave, especially as the rain has stopped outside, so she urges Ruben to leave with her. However, just then, Maya suddenly blocks their way. The next moment, Maya began to laugh wildly, and strangely, the entire house started to shake. Alfie and Ruben try to escape, but the door has been locked tightly. To make matters worse, there's a demon standing guard outside. It seems they're not leaving today. Ruben, unwilling to abandon Maya, runs back to find her, hoping to convince her to come with him, but as he pats Maya's shoulder, the demon appears. Ruben barely manages to keep the demon outside, but when he turns around, he sees Maya sitting on the sofa. Maya tricks Ruben into joining the demon's side and tells him to bring Alfie into it as well. Ruben thinks this is all absurd and slaps Maya across the face, only to regret it immediately after. Enraged, Maya took out the doll and immediately snapped off one of its arms, and that arm was the same one Ruben had used to hit her. She then twists his neck, killing him brutally. This bloody scene is witnessed by Alfie and Nara. Maya, without hesitation, takes control of Nara and locks her in the basement, leaving Alfie all alone, at her mercy. When Alfie wakes up again, she finds herself locked up. It's here that Alfie finally learns the truth. 3 years after performing the ritual, her father, trying to save the company, agreed to sacrifice his daughter to the demon. However, the priestess immediately knew it wasn't real as soon as she smelled the hair. The priestess, realizing she had been deceived, instantly flew into a rage. However, Lesmana was one step ahead, grabbing a nearby dagger and plunging it into the priestess's heart. Before dying, the priestess desperately tore off Lesmana's hair, swallowed it, and then placed a curse. Enraged and humiliated, Lesmana finished the priestess off with a spade and buried her deep in the basement. After understanding the situation, Alfie realized that the evil spirit was the priestess, and her goal was revenge. The priestess controlled Maya, making her continuously torment the dolls that represented them, bringing endless suffering to them. Luckily, at that moment, Alfie noticed that Maya still had a doll on her, which seemed to represent Maya herself. So, Alfie deliberately begins laughing uncontrollably, luring Maya closer. While Maya was distracted, Alfie snatched the doll representing her and threw it into the furnace. Instantly, Maya's body bursts into flames, and within moments, she turns to ash. Alfie thinks the demon has been completely eliminated, but to her shock, the evil spirit reappears beside her and drags her into the grave. Uncertain of how much time had passed, Alfie was awakened by the rain. Her first instinct was to scramble out of the mud pit. However, the continuous downpour had made the walls extremely slippery, leaving her with no way to find a foothold. Just as she was about to give up, Alfie heard her mother's voice, and then a pair of hands appeared in front of her. But as Alfie climbs up, she realizes that it is none other than her surviving little sister, Nara, who has saved her. And that's where today's story ends. See you next time.